Breaking news, Trump might pardon P. Diddy. You know, Trump simply doesn't need to do this, but he wants to. He loves doing this. He wants to get the Avengers together of the gropers, okay? Not the groypers, the gropers. P. Diddy, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein coming right back, reincarnated, Andrew Tate. They're going to go abuse so many women together. Trump's own administration is telling him, hey, Trump, don't do this. Why the hell would you pardon P. Diddy and Ghislaine Maxwell and George Santos and protect Jeffrey Epstein? And Trump's like, I gotta do it. Trump is so dedicated to this one mission of protecting abusers and predators. He will do anything. Nothing will stop his protection of PDF files. He's doing all this stuff that his supporters would say the deep state would do, but he's doing it so out in the open, and his supporters are such pushovers. They aren't saying anything about it. He's going to pardon P. Diddy. He's going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell. He's going to pardon George Santos. He's going to do all this illegal, not illegal, sorry, but all this depraved activity and not get called out from his supporters who view him as a god, as a cult member. God must have saved Trump to save the diddler, I guess. I don't know. Please drop a like, repost this video, and follow my page.
The Trump regime has created a task force of 4,000 federal agents to go after you for your anti-American, anti-capitalist, anti-Christian speech, labeling it as extremist speech and directing these agents to stop you before you do anything. Watch Nancy Pelosi's primary challenger, Soykot Chakrabarti, whom I'm endorsing, mention this on CNN and watch how they shut him down.
You were seeing SPM 7, which says any anti-American or anti-capitalist or anti-Christian speech is extremist speech. We have a task force of 4,000 agents who are being taken off of drug trafficking and human trafficking and the actual crime and being put on prosecuting those people who are saying anti-capitalist things. Do you think that's okay? Can you put two and two together about what's going on here?
We will answer that question coming up. We're going to leave it there for that conversation next.
Look how smoothly CNN shoved that away. Immediately. Soykot is the only person I've seen get onto mainstream media and bring up NSPM 7, the order that dictates this action. This is crazy. We need to support people like Soykot. I'm endorsing him. You guys should go check him out. He's anti-genocide. He's against the corrupt Democrat establishment. That's why he's running in San Francisco against Nancy Pelosi, and I fully support him. But we need more leaders like this, more leaders like Soykot. Thank you, and free Palestine.
Have y'all heard what the man in charge has done now? Because apparently he rolled out of bed this morning, stared straight into that mirror, and said, you know what America needs? A little more asbestos with breakfast. That's right. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, under his watch, just proposed a rule that makes poison patriotic again. They're calling it streamlining, but it's really just deregulation with a side of brain damage. They want to weaken oversight of asbestos, PFAS, formaldehyde, and dioxins. Basically, the Mount Rushmore of things that melt your DNA. These are the same chemicals that made half the 80s glow in the dark, and now the EPA is like, you know what? Let's give them another run. And the way they're doing it, they are cutting out exposure pathways, which means if you drink it, breathe it, or accidentally soak it into your pores, that's on you, champ. And it's like they looked at the Surgeon General's warning and said, you know what? That sounds optional to me, and bless their hearts. They're assuming every worker in America has perfect protective gear. Oh, sure, because Carl in the night shift at the plastics plant definitely has a spare NASA suit in his locker. Right now, that man's out there duct taping a shower cap to his head while the EPA is calling it safety compliance. They are not protecting the environment anymore. They are protecting profit margins. The P in EPA now stands for poison, and just in case your state actually cares about clean air or safe drinking water, too bad. This new rule could wipe out state-level protections altogether. It's like they saw people getting healthy and thought, well, we can't have that. Somewhere in a corporate boardroom today, a lobbyist is toasting with a glass of tap water that glows like a firefly. To deregulation, they say, while its cubes scream. This whole thing is so backwards, I'm half expecting them to start selling Patriot's Pure Lead bottled water at gas stations next to the MAGA merch. They call it efficiency. I call it a slow motion funeral with paperwork. And let's be real, This isn't about science, it's about revenge. It's about tearing down every single safeguard that keeps regular people safe just to prove they can. Because if there's one thing this movement loves, it's dressing up destruction and calling it reform. So before I let y'all go, if you haven't already, you need to read today's write-up. They built a machine to make revenge look like reform. It is a full-scale breakdown of how the Trump-aligned movement turned the idea of reform into a weapon for revenge, and did it so quietly, most Americans don't even realize it's happening. You can read it by visiting the link in my bio or heading to southernpunk.substack.com, because listen, this is the Southern Punk Project, where we don't need hazmat suits to handle the truth. We just need a porch, a mic, and enough sweet tea to wash down the formaldehyde they keep trying to feed us.
Donald Trump's shitposting about the No Kings rally has put Republicans in the usual shitstorm of having to answer for his tweets, and they're doing a pretty shitty job. This is just another day. With fall finally here, I was psyched to see all the autumn colors on full display this weekend. We've got the reds, the yellows, the oranges, but it was the president himself who brought the brown.
Millions of Americans took to the streets to protest the current administration and its policies. This was President Trump's response. The AI-generated video features President Trump in a crown, flying a fighter jet emblazoned with King Trump on its side. The president then appears to dump raw sewage on protesters.
Raw sewage is such a dignified way of describing what was in that video. Not a Dumbo drop of diarrhea or a chemtrail of caca. Trump went low and that reporter went high, which makes sense. Who wants to be low to the ground when there are jet loads of shit falling from the sky? But don't expect the president himself to dignify his behavior with an explanation. He leaves that literally shitty job to his surrogates.
What does it say that the president of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people?
The president uses social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point.
Now, I know it might sound ridiculous to call that petty, vulgar video the most effective internet satire of our time, but you have to consider the steep learning curve Mike Johnson's dealing with. 2 years ago, he was selling cookies out of a tree. Now he's justifying the antics of the most batshit president America has ever seen. And you know what happens if he screws up. So clearly, the stakes are high. But Speaker Johnson has learned a few tricks since his time in the Keebler Forest, which is why he cleverly pivoted away from how poorly the president behaved to how poorly the protesters almost behaved.
Congratulations, they didn't burn any buildings down.
And frankly, he's right. Look, I think we need to have an honest conversation about the violence and vandalism the left is capable of. Sorry, that was from January 6th. Still, no one's better than Mike Johnson at bending the actual truth into what he wants to be true. Just watch this true jitsu master get it done.
He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents, and that's what these people are doing. I mean, they're in one of these photos, I think there's a picture of the president hanging in effigy by a noose.
A noose? Huh. Disgusting. I mean, even the implication of
surveillance video showing what appears to be people erecting a gallows and a noose, which were seen during January 6th during that attack on the Capitol.
Damn it, Mike! They learned it from watching you. Don't you see? They learned it from watching you. Clearly, Speaker Johnson might need a little help discrediting this weekend's protests. Any other silver foxes at the Capitol want to step in?
I think it is extremely important that we look at who is funding these protests. We have to get to the bottom of this. It is a much larger organization. It could be the usual suspect, of course, George Soros.
Look, I know Republicans never met a conspiracy theory they couldn't say no to, but no one got paid to protest this weekend. First of all, Trump himself is one of the most divisive presidents in history. And second, the weather was nice. Hell, I'll go to a Timothy Chalamet lookalike contest if it's t-shirt weather. And you know what? I'll win, because I exude his youthful blend of intensity and vulnerability. See? But if calling legitimately dissenting Americans paid political actors doesn't work, Republicans still have one last go-to tactic.
And the truth is, the Marxists, the radicals, and the Islamists, the Democratic Party promoted this weekend. They cannot handle the truth.
This is nothing more than a bunch of Antifa socialists and Marxists who hate democracy. I mean, you could have very well called this I Hate America campaign. And what they want is they want socialism like they have in Russia and China, where poverty is spread across everywhere. And if they want that, they can go to China or Russia. But that's not what we have here in America.
If Trump dissenters really wanted to pack it up for Russia and China, don't you think they'd be a little more psyched about the direction America's headed in? Don't you think they'd be fist pumping at all the state censorship and masked police forces disappearing people off the streets and powerful leaders trying to suppress the political commentary of comedians instead of protesting it? Because last time I checked, those are the kind of things Russia's known for. That and their draconian shirts while on horses ban. But look, getting into the weeds of whether or not this weekend's protesters had valid concerns doesn't serve Republicans. Better off just calling him stupid.
They call him a king where, ironically, they're also advocating for the death of that democratically elected president.
It was quite ironic, though. The irony was very glaring. They called it the No Kings Rally. But the great irony, of course, that we pointed out over and over was if President Trump was a king, the government would be open. If President Trump was a king, he would have closed the national parks and the National Mall, so they couldn't have had the rally out here.
Protesters were missing the irony because it was ironic. Quite ironic. Glaringly ironic, even. Do you know how pissed Alanis Morissette is that she wrote Ironic 18 years before the No Kings protest? She could have gotten rid of that whole Rain on Your Wedding Day verse, which we all know wasn't actually ironic, but just an unfortunate inconvenience. Talk about a jagged little pill. But hey, you live, you learn. And, I ought to know. Look, Republicans want you to believe that the very celebration of No King's Day discredits its own premise. If Trump were a king, he would never have allowed it. But the truth is, he's already justified these rallies. In the past, when he's wanted to shut down protests, he shut down protests. He's deployed the National Guard to 3 liberal cities just to terrorize their communities. He's even done this.
He's going to finally give a direct order to deploy paratroopers into the streets of Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking with weapons and bayonets. And this would be horrible.
What specifically was he suggesting that the U.S. military should do to these protesters?
He says, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And he's suggesting that that's what we should do, that we should bring in the troops and shoot the protesters.
The commander-in-chief was suggesting that the U.S. military shoot protesters.
Yes, in the streets of our nation's capital. That's right.
All of which is to say, we're not exactly hard-pressed to justify mass mobilizations. Let's face it, Trump simply thought that these protests were a joke. We know that because he chose to respond with jokes. He chose to spend his Saturday making AI videos dumping shit on the American people and retweeting pictures of himself as king. He's a master of satire. He's compelled by his gifts. But in the same way he chooses where to put his time, he's also choosing where not to put it. We are in day 20 of a government shutdown with no end in sight. There is no solution for surging inflation, no solution for rising costs, no solution for unaffordable healthcare. But instead of making interludes toward compromise, he's making a lot of sick memes. So next time you hear his surrogates calling Chuck Schumer the real king or blaming the Democrats for the current state of affairs, remember, Trump is choosing to dump jets full of shit on his adversaries, then wondering publicly why they won't bend to his will. And you know how I find that?
It was quite ironic, though. The irony was very glaring.
When Trump insults a reporter, do you think they should insult him back?
Ooh, do like a rap battle, like the Dozens, like, tell that to your cankles. Hey, you can remove me like you can't remove excess fluid subcutaneously. Boom. Roasted.
I think it didn't work out too well for Terry Moran.
But he didn't even I think that was like a tweet.
He called someone a hater.
I want to see a real burn. I want to hear them be and follow up. Are you a little baby?
Oh, are you going to cry?
I think Caitlin Collins has it in her.
Caitlin Collins is the only one. I actually think she's the only one that even they aren't quite sure what to do with.
Yeah.
Because she's always just like matter of fact, like, because you did say 2.5 weeks ago, and I think I've got the quote right here, and they're all like, what are you doing homework? Why are you trying to make us all look bad?
Is this witchcraft?
What are you, I don't understand. You're collecting facts and then you're going to say them back at me live? Unacceptable. It would be cool to just see that. Like,
Yeah.
just a bunch of, the thing just deteriorates into, although they're also changing the format so that there's a bunch of people, like even within the questions, who will be like, Mr. President, why are you so awesome? And, still like 79 and you seem to still be growing. How do you do that? Nonsense.
Day 273 of Making America Great Again. And it's been a crazy, 24 hours of just nonsense. It's like we permanently live in a Saturday Night Live skit, or I don't know, that it's not real news. Like every day I read the news, read some not newspapers but articles, and I just think to myself, it's not this can't be real. This has to be satire, or but it's never satire. It is always real, and I just don't understand how we have made it to the position where our daily lives is basically like a Saturday Night Live skit, every single day. I don't understand the timeline we are on. It is the grossest timeline ever, and I just don't get it. People are still complaining about Bad Bunny during the Super Bowl halftime, basically calling him, saying that he's not American, saying that NFL should be, the halftime show is NFL is American, and the halftime show should represent that. Well, one, Puerto Rico, which is where Bad Bunny is from, he's Puerto Rican, is an American territory, which then therefore makes him an American citizen. Also, America has no official language. It's not like, Japan, where they only speak Japanese, right? That's their country's language. No, America does not have an official language, because we had, guess what, immigrants come in and bring their own language. And, we have Mexican Americans, we have Italian Americans. We have bilingual citizens here in America, and their English is not it's not like this official thing, but people are freaking out because he's speaking Spanish for a majority of it. He's singing in Spanish, and I don't understand it. And then Charlie Kirk's, production or show, they want to do an alternative. And have you seen some of the Kid Rock? That's all I have to say. Kid Rock is who they want to. So there have been multiple reports that after the cameras were shut off when Trump and Zelensky met, after the cameras were shut off and the cameras were, out of the room, and there have been multiple sources where basically Donald Trump yelled and screamed at Zelensky, basically telling him to give up his land. Let Putin have the land. And Zelensky rightfully said back to him, hell no. He didn't say hell no, but that's what I feel like would have been awesome. Why give up our land to a dictator who started this war? He basically, has told Zelensky that Putin should have won the war the first day. Like, he just goes on and on. That's actually in the press conference where the reporters, you can hear him say that. But the fact that he is yelling at Zelensky, who didn't start the war and is only defending his people and his country, and yelling at him and telling him that he needs to give up is wild, is absolutely insane, and makes me wonder, what does Putin and the Russian government have on Donald Trump? Because Putin is not a good person, period. He kills people who thinks differently of him. He disappears people. He's not a good person. So to side with that person is disgusting, right? I mean, but also, he sides with Netanyahu and now the Argentinian president. The people Trump looks up to, are just gross, demeaning humans, which it doesn't surprise me. There's also a construction going on at the White House, and his ballroom that apparently America and multiple presidents have wanted for the past 150 years, I think he said. He has now torn down like part of the East Wing of the White House. He didn't add on to it where they just like, how you add on to your home. And no, he has visibly torn down massive parts of the East Wing, which is crazy to me. One, it's crazy because I thought that the White House, I thought that the White House was like a historical building that, presidents do things on the inside, right? They always decorate, they always do things, but to tear something down to add a ballroom, it just doesn't make sense to me. And two, the government is shut down and people aren't getting paid, but yet he is building a $250 million ballroom on, like, the optics of that is just gross. Also, Kristi Noem is getting 2 private jets that are like, I think it said $175 million. 2 private jets. What? Why? In what world? Like, I just don't understand why there isn't more outrage to Trump's idiotic decisions. Like, I really don't get it. Also, Mike Johnson pretty much just said that he still blames the Democrats for this being shut down, and like he refuses to talk to any of the Democrats because he doesn't want to have any conversations with them, but yet he wants them to own the ownership of shutting down the government. But he needs 7 Democrats to help him pass his supposedly clean bill, right? And he won't even talk to them. So, crazy. Levitt was asked a question about troops being sent into Venezuela, or I can't remember what the troops was. A question was, a reporter asked her a question, who decided to do this? And she texts back, your mom did. I'm not lying to you. That's not satire. It's not a joke. It's not a Saturday Night Live skit. No, she texted back, your mom did. The White House press secretary. That's it. That's all I got.